hosting the John Telford Detroit Show with Dr. John Telford, coming to you live at 10 o'clock every Wednesday morning on WJZZ Cool TV, streaming on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter. Dr. John Telford is a former Detroit Public School superintendent, a former world-class athlete and conqueror of Olympic champions, a championship track coach, poet, newspaper columnist, longtime civil rights crusader, and the author of 6 Detroit-oriented books. The Poet Emperor of Earth, What Old Men Know, Creative Insubordination, The Will Robinson Story, The Poetic Prancings of Mad John, his explosive autobiography, A Life on the Run, and another forthcoming poetry book, Athletes, Activism, and Apple Boughs, a Detroit poetic epic. He also has a show on WCHB AM 1340, Detroit's gospel station, Saturday mornings at 9:30 and Monday evenings at 6:30. That's Saturday mornings 9:30 and Monday evenings at 6:30. His books are available at Barnes & Noble, Amazon.com, or just by calling the good doctor at 313-460-8272. That's 313-460-8272. Dr. John Telford has been called a legend and a lightning rod for controversy. He has received the Detroit City Council Spirit of Detroit Award and the Joe Louis Foundation Spirit of the Champ Award. He was named Wayne State University's Alumnus of the Year in 2001, and the Detroit track was named in his honor. His email is drjohntelfordedd@aol.com. That's drjohntelfordedd@aol.com. Now, without further ado, I present to you that crusading old native Detroiter, Dr. John Telford.
Thank you, Dr. Sunanda Corrado, that PhD from Columbia University, who is an anthropologist by training. Dr. Corrado has been featured and teaching at Wayne County Community College District, and she's taught there for over 10 years. Even though she looks like she's 17 years old, she's taught there that long. And she's currently a researcher for the Detroit Equity Action Lab, housed in the Wayne State University Law School. And she is founder and CEO of Education by Design. Here's a poem that I want to start out with called Uncivil Warfare. Got to get this out of the way because I always do it, even though they're trying to get me kicked off WCHB for doing this all the time. But Uncivil Warfare, wrote this poem on the 6th of January. On this evil and fatal occasion of the Capitol building invasion, the traitor Trump's collusion demands his execution. God yet hasn't pushed the lever on the traitor Trump forever. And when God does push that lever, let us hope that it is the lever of the gas chamber. And if you oppose capital punishment, as I do, except in Trump's case, let's hope that they put the sucker in federal prison for the rest of his natural thieving life. Okay, one last poem, Blue Salt. My name is Detroit. I'm a blue-collar town. Blue salt melts my mid-March snow. Speedy cars and sprinters spring from me. I father fierce fighters and funky music. In a Motown moment, I can spit the blues right back in a bureaucrat's eye. Have you never seen blue salt? No complex chemistry here, only the old color of a new sky. And you know, we've got a new sky dawning today in Detroit, because on the John Telford Detroit Show this morning at 10 o'clock on WJZZ Cool TV, we have got Dr. Bertram Marks calling in to discuss gerrymandering. And we also have Sherry Gay Danyogo, who is zoomed in on the show. You'll be able to see her when I put this show on my Facebook page and when it goes every place else.
Current Detroit Public School Board member.
Oh, absolutely.
And also perhaps considering running for Congress after redistricting.
Absolutely.
Thank you for coming.
Yes, Dr. Sherry Gay Danyogo was my chief of staff when I was superintendent. Pro bono. She did it. She did it pro bono. I did it pro bono. I was superintendent.
She was there during the exile.
And she's on the school board now. She's been a state representative. And she will be running for Congress, and she has my support for Congress. That's going to be, I think, in District 13, if I'm not mistaken. But Bertram Marks and Sherry are going to be answering some questions that Dr. Marks sent to me. Dr. Marks has been a practicing trial lawyer for 28 years. His practice includes product liability, medical malpractice, ecclesiastical corporate law, and civil rights. He has a poli-sci degree from Wayne State University and a law degree from the University of Detroit, where I coached track at one time. Of course, I'm a Wayne State guy too. I'm 2 degrees there. But he also has a doctorate in ministry from the Ecumenical Theological Seminary in Detroit. And in his capacity as a trial attorney, he has litigated cases in Michigan, Kentucky, Texas, Ohio, Louisiana, and Mississippi.
That's a lot of bar exams.
You bet. You bet. You bet. Bertram Marks serves. Bertram Marks serves as a Senate. Well, I'm trying to read what I my own handwriting. Real impressive, anyway. As a senior level, I think it says, a senior level consultant to Fortune 1000 corporations and educational institutions. I'd be interested in knowing what educational institution, Bert, that you are affiliated with. He's also a former state of Michigan civil rights commissioner. I mean, listen to all of that. So, Sherry and Bert, welcome to the John Telford Detroit Show. Hello.
Thank you for having me.
Hey, Sherry, Bert, are you on the line?
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good
Thank
morning.
you for making the time.
Are you there, Bert?
Thank you.
Bert, are you there? Are we hearing Bert?
Maybe not so much. Perhaps you could try to come and see what's going on. But what we're trying to
listen,
talk about
while
today,
we're waiting for wait a minute. While we're waiting for Bert and Sherry, I'm going to get some of the promised announcements out of the way then. And
well,
also,
I'm here.
Yeah, I know you're there. Just hang in, Sherry. Hang in for a minute. I got some stuff I promised to do, and I'm going to get it out of the way. We're waiting for Bert to come on. He's going to be. I don't know if he's coming on Zoom or if he's going to be coming on by phone, but we got a full hour. So, Tommy Sledge has passed, folks, and I've got to mention that Tommy Sledge came out of Detroit Miller High School. And he was a long-term treasurer of the Detroit Track and Field Old Timers, which I founded with Colonel Aaron Gordon back in 1992. And Tommy also ran the half mile for the University of Detroit. Everyone loved Tommy Sledge. We are really going to miss Tommy Sledge. And when I find out about arrangements, I'll let you know on WCHB this Saturday morning, and also next week. I don't know when the arrangements actually are. His daughter will be calling me. Okay, I think we do have Bert Marks on the line now. Do we, Bert? Are you there?
Yes, I'm here.
Oh, good. Okay. Okay. Well, I just did your great resume, Bert, and I also did a resume for Sherry Gaidan-Yogo because she's here too to talk about the redistricting and the gerrymandering and everything that's been going on. And anything else you guys want to talk about. But I'm going to start with this question to both of you. No, wait a minute. I'm going to let you do the first question. What's the first question?
Oh, the first question was about voting rights. I'm sorry. So what we're going to be talking about on this show is redistricting. And so we're going to talk about, and I don't know,
gerrymandering.
Redistricting, in terms of gerrymandering, sure, because that's the word that people are kind of toggling and throwing around. What does gerrymandering mean? But what we're also talking about is essentially the obliteration of 5 majority Black districts for Senate. And I think I think we had 12 House districts, Black majority led, right? And now it might be done to 3 or 5.
If anybody will know, Sherry Gaidan-Yogo will know, and Bertram Marks will know, because these are two very knowledgeable political folks in this, this state.
But this is why redistricting and gerrymandering are key issues to talk about. So the first question, perhaps, of course, either Dr. Marks or Of course. So, should President Joe Biden get a pass if he's not able to get a voting rights bill passed?
You want me to answer that? No. Go ahead, Bert or Sherry.
Well, I'm going to say this about Sherry first. I have heard rumblings about her running for Congress, and I think that's an awesome idea.
Me too.
The only reason I would be reticent about it is because she is such a value add to the Detroit Board of Education that's going to be a huge loss. But we need voices like Sherry. She's been doing this for a long time,
That's right.
and she's one of the few elected leaders who chose to stand up and speak out against this redistricting, this terrible map that's been drawn by pledging to file a lawsuit. So much respect to you, Sherry, for once again being on the front line and not being concerned about all of the arrows that are likely coming your way. So we appreciate you, and we look forward to supporting whatever effort you have.
We're used to arrows, aren't we, Sherry? We are.
Oh, yes. Oh, yes.
And
Thank you for
Sherry,
that.
Sherry was a Detroit school teacher too. She taught in Detroit. As a matter of fact, did I, and I'm doing it again.
So let me reframe the question then too, because the first question was about the voting rights bill pass. Could we first talk about how this voting rights bill conflates or doesn't go with the new redistricting or do we want to start with talking about the voting rights bill? How do you guys feel?
Well, I think there are two things we should be discussing. One is we must have protections for our right to vote. That is essential, and we need to be aware, and we need to be focused on this move by Republican governmental institutions at the local level to change the rules. And that's pretty much what we find when we're dealing with the Republicans, that they're not
Republicans anymore, Bert. They're Retrumplicans, and they are fascist. And we've got to take off the gloves. Biden's got to take off the gloves. Merrick Garland's got to take off the gloves. Our democracy is teetering on the brink right now, and I know you guys all know that.
But then we're at this weird intersection where Sherry comes in significantly as a real candidate for the city, right? Because on the one hand, we redistrict so that Democrats have an advantage, but on the other hand, the Black vote has helped the Democratic Party out so much. But what has happened to their voting blocks? I mean, where has the advantage for Black parties come from? If we talk about Republicans and Democrats, we're the Black people in the city, because the city is often associated with Black folks too, right? But doesn't the city itself have a right to be autonomous, regardless of its racial characteristics? Should it be part of Macomb? Should it be part of Oakland County?
So before I answer that, I have to say, first of all, thank you both for having me on. Dr. Telford, thank you for your patience with technology.
Again, we're going to do this a lot. We got to get you.
I appreciate it. And Attorney Bertram Marks, thank you so much for your kind remarks. Being out here in the trenches, we've seen many battles and fights together, and this is not the first, and I'm sure it won't be the last. But to your point, the question on the impact and redistricting and of course, the conversations about the Democrats getting the majority. But if you go back to the whole intent and purpose of making sure that there is a Voting Rights Act, is for the purpose of making sure that the African American vote and our ability to elect leadership that looks like us, to not disenfranchise the Black and minority vote. That is very important. And so, yes, to your point, we've always been there in the trenches, delivering the presidency, delivering the governor. We come to the table with a block of votes that shouldn't be ignored, fracked, and dispersed into these individual cities. And so a lot of people are confused and like, well, don't you want more diversity? Don't you want to be able to have a voice in other cities and municipalities? Yes, we do. But when the voting block is become so watered down, we won't have that ability. And so that's what we have to be mindful of.
Be thinking about this next question, because we got to go to a quick commercial, but be thinking about this next question. What happens, and this is for you, Bert, but Sherry, you can chime in too. What happens if we don't get a voting rights bill passed? Okay, we got to have a commercial though, but think about that question.
So in that sense, yeah, the question is how can we exert pressure on the Democratic Party? And you are watching the John Telford Detroit Show, coming to you live, streaming on Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, Twitter, and other top social media platforms. Please like, follow, share, comment, and subscribe to us and our various programming here at WJZZ. And thank you for watching Cool TV, the coolest station in the world. And today we have with us school board member Sherry Gay Dagnolo. I'm sorry, I'm just a little nervous.
It's okay.
An honor to be with you, and Dr. Bertram Marks, civil rights attorney.
Who is an attorney? Yeah, civil rights attorney. And you want me to repeat that question, or do you remember it?
Well, I'm going to be 55 on January 30th. Repeat that.
So what do we do if they can't pass the Voting Rights Act?
That's a question.
Yeah.
Question.
What are we left with this redistricting? If the voting rights bill doesn't get through, where does that leave us with Democrats?
The whole legacy of the late Honorable Congressman John Lewis, Congressman John Conyers, those who have fought and toiled for years for us to have equal representation in this country as African Americans, and to be a part, a key component of the Democratic Party. I don't want to see what doesn't happen. I want to make sure that we do across the country, make sure that we unite and understand the power of our vote, the power of our influence, even with this upcoming election. And we have to continue to demand, even if we cause good trouble, we have to continue to demand that the bills are passed. That's essential. So I don't want to see a democracy without equal access, equal representation. And so we're kind of going backwards in time. We made a lot of accomplishments as African Americans through the civil rights movement, getting certain protections in place. But we can't just stop there. We must continue to unite our voice and say, yes, we are Democrats. We're Democrats. But we're Democrats that deserve to have the ability to have proper representation. And that's something that we don't have to be uncomfortable about. And oftentimes in some of the conversations that I hear, some of my colleagues figure we got to just play good and be quiet. I'm not very good at playing good, rolling over, playing dead. We have to lift our voice for equal representation.
Attorney Marks, I'd like to have you respond to that too, if you would like to.
Sure. I think what we're talking about is a couple of issues. One, nationally, we're talking about whether or not a voting rights bill that was authored and sponsored by the late, great John Lewis, whether or not that bill will get passed in Washington, D.C. We are learning daily that it is in deep jeopardy and may not, in fact, pass. What happens if it doesn't pass? Well, then we revert back to the reason we needed a voting rights bill in the 60s. It is because at the time, Southern Democrats, primarily, but this was happening all over the country, but primarily Southern Democrats were suppressing the Black vote so that they could maintain power. So they placed a lot of restrictions on individuals and their ability to vote. What's an example of that? Well, they would give them a test when they arrived, and if they couldn't pass the test, they couldn't vote. Or they would impose a tax on potential voters, and if you couldn't pay the tax, a poll tax, you weren't allowed to vote. These actions were deemed to be unconstitutional, and the United States government passed the Voting Rights Act. The Voting Rights Act expired. We need a new Voting Rights Act because the same thing is happening. You now have the Trumpians, because I agree with you, Dr. Telford, it's hard to call them Republicans.
No, they're not Republicans anymore. I mean, these men are pure fascist. They've abandoned any pretense of believing in democracy.
So this kind of leads into the second question.
Well, he was answering. He's not done with his answer. Go ahead,
So
Bert.
you're right, and so what they're doing now in response to the 2020 election, they initially claimed as a strategy, we're simply going to lie and we're going to tell
That's
everybody
right.
we won and that the election was stolen.
Mm-hmm.
As we promulgate this lie as a distraction, we're going to start working in individual states to change the rules. We're going to change the rules in some states, like, for example, Arizona, if the electors of that state select a candidate based on the voting numbers. So Joe Biden wins, we then certify him as a winner. They're changing the rules to say that the electors can be ignored and the state legislature can submit its own candidates for certification. That's simply cheating.
Yeah, it
We
is
don't like
cheating.
the rules, so we're going to cheat.
But
That's a
here's
big
the thing.
problem.
But here's the thing. We do have President Biden in office now. He has been able to exert all kinds of pressure on Manchin for certain bills that he wants to pass. So we know the Democratic Party can come together on certain agenda points.
Well, it's not
So
coming
what
together
happens?
with Manchin and
Yeah.
Cinema.
So what happens if they can't come together on the voting rights bill? That they can come together on passing trillions of dollars, which is great. But what happens? Is it like the Equal Rights Amendment, just something italicized in the Constitution, something that may actually in our current history never be passed? How possible is that?
If we don't pass a voting rights bill, we have undermined our democracy and we have destroyed any confidence that citizens can have in the election process. Once you start instituting these kinds of cheating measures, that's all you can call them.
That's right.
You begin to dilute the people's confidence in our electoral system, and it is a serious danger to democracy. Black folks and brown folks will be excluded, but the impact of these actions will affect everybody. And so it is, I understand that Joe Biden can't get these things done by himself. Neither could Barack Obama. Joe Biden was one of the chief architects of the rescue of the auto industry. He was one of the chief architects of the Affordable Care Act in terms of working both sides of the aisle to get it done. He's been there 40 years. He ran on the premise that he could get things done. We're seeing that that's not happening, and we cannot give him a pass. We want Joe Biden to be successful, but for years, Black Democrats have always been accepting and hopeful. And we saw with the New Georgia Project, the leaders of the New Georgia Project, they told Biden and Vice President Harris in no uncertain terms, don't come to Georgia with just a speech. You need to have a plan for getting this voting rights act passed. And that plan you should be revealing to us. And so you saw significant numbers of individuals in Atlanta not attend Biden's address. And the Biden administration said, well, there was a conflict with Stacey Abrams' schedule. Well, we all know that that's not likely believable because, President of the United States comes to town, you can adjust your schedule certainly to meet him. But that was a very significant demonstration of Black Democrats saying we're tired of just being talked at around election time. We're tired of you not fulfilling our promises. And right here in the state of Michigan, this is why I'm so proud of what Sherry and others have done, because right here in the state of Michigan, these redistricting maps favor Democrats. They don't favor Black Democrats and Black voting blocs.
That's right.
They exclude us from that.
Yeah,
and
that
so
causes
we
us
have
to
to
lose our
wonder
franchise.
We lost
That's-
all of our Senate seats.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
in this sense, a kind of a lead-in to Sherry with this
Well, wait a
question.
minute.
Thank you so much.
Are you going to ask the question I think you're going to ask? Are you going to ask?
I'm going to ask the
Okay.
thord question, but
Yeah,
with a
great.
little
Yeah.
preamble.
This is a key question. I think they get Sherry's reaction to it
So
first.
in this sense, Okay. So
Go ahead.
Okay, so we know in our local elections, we've been having a lot of problems. In fact, people who've been running for the city clerk's office said that there was a 72% error rate in our local elections. So talking about it on the federal level is one way, but when we talk about the city, we talk about a 72% error rate, votes being thrown out and not counted. Sherry, how do you feel about what can be done about this new redistricting map? How is redistricting going to affect our ability when we already, I'm sorry, but the city clerk didn't come out for one debate, did she?
No, intentionally.
No. What happens when we don't have,
Oh, wait a minute. Sherry's gone.
Oh, shoot.
I don't know what the heck happened. Well, okay.
I'm sorry.
Okay,
Mr. Marks, are you still with us?
Oh, yeah, he's still there.
Well, I think this is less about the city clerk. I mean, when you look at the results of the most recent election, I think 18% of eligible voters came out to vote. So the issue is really, how do we motivate individuals in a Stacey Abrams style effort? How do we get more folks not just registered to vote, but actually voting and being engaged in the process? Well, I can tell you that when you have situations like not being able to pass something like Build Back Better in Washington, not being able to get a voting rights bill passed, it leaves the ordinary voter, especially Black and brown people, feeling like there's no reason for them to vote.
But
now,
what,
we know
but what
that's
about
not
when
the
our
case,
leaders are
but
held
this is the
unaccountable?
calculation.
I'm sorry, sir, but what about our leaders being held unaccountable for their votes here? We have no voting record of our city council. How can people come out and vote in an educated manner?
Well, I think what it's going to take is we have to have leadership from the parties. I mean, we're not disagreeing. We're saying the same thing.
Yes, sir.
But it's leadership of the parties. Right now, we have a redistricting map that favors Democrats, but it dilutes the Black vote. Where are the leaders of the Democratic Party on this issue?
Sherry, could you answer that one?
No, Sherry's gone.
Sherry's on.
No, I'm not. I'm here. Can you guys hear me?
Yeah,
we can hear you, Sherry.
Okay, because I don't know what happened, but no, I'm here. I was here before. I heard you guys, but you couldn't hear me.
Oh,
so
okay.
I'm trying to make sure that this camera is on and not, we don't see this green
screen.
Oh,
we can hear you.
But Bertram's there we go. There it is. Bertram's absolutely right. There has been absolute silence for months on the issue of these maps. To your question about the clerk, I don't know if that percentage is accurate. I'm hopeful that it's not, but I don't think that that's accurate. But I think the larger or more important question is, why is there such silence when you're dealing with the issues that could actually disenfranchise the strongest component of the party? We're the backbone of the Democratic Party. And so while we have always rallied behind the Democratic ticket, we've always made sure that we've done our work to turn out our respective communities, while we've always gotten out there and made bricks out of straw, basically, because we don't get the investments, we don't get the contracting dollars. We just get out there and we take our buckets and we start putting out fires. Why was no one speaking to this a lot sooner? And so we had to take the lead. It wasn't just me. It was our new Detroit caucus chair, Rep. Tanisha Yancey, who is co-counsel on this case. Nabi Ayad, Attorney Nabi Ayad, who used to be our Black caucus attorney and sat on the Civil Rights Commission. It was, members in our caucus and former members, former member KB Stallworth, former member Lamar Lemons, urged me to do whatever we could. Yes, to organize and make sure that we get the word out. And so I was asked to do that on October the 7th. On October the 8th, we had a panel with Harvey Santana, Bert Johnson, myself, Ed Sarpolis. Ed Sarpolis has been doing this for years. And so we're thankful that we were able to at least serve as a catalyst to get the word out. But now that we've gotten the word out, we got to do more conversations like this, more town halls, because you're right. People are saying, well, what is gerrymandering? Where did it come from? Like, what's the issue? And for those who were fearful to fill out the census, and now we have not just issues with our election process, but we had problems with the census process. You know, some say that the numbers aren't accurate.
Yeah.
We still haven't gotten to a point of understanding what the numbers actually are, but that is how you determine the number of seats.
And Sherry, I got to interrupt you just for a minute because I got to make sure that I discharge some of my responsibilities regarding announcements. And okay, we got a commercial.
And you're watching the John Telford Detroit Show, coming to you live on Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, Twitter, and other top social media platforms. Please like, follow, share, comment, and subscribe to us and various other programming we offer to you here at WJZZ Cool TV, the coolest station in the world.
And Miss Virginia Starkey, fondly known as V, is the proprietress of V's Boutique, and it offers a wide range of fine clothing and accessories for ladies. And you can find all sizes of women's fine apparel at V's one-stop shop over there on 16423 East Warren. 16423 East Warren. That's right over by the Alger Theater.
That's right.
And it's also by
can't miss it.
By one of the few libraries that's still open. We only got 6 of them open. And you know, Sherry, I got to tell you, I'm trying to decide whether to run for the school board or to throw in my hat for the library board, because I've always been an advocate
Wayne
for
County
literacy.
Community College only has one library open as well.
Yeah, I mean, we've got 21 libraries here at one time. 21.
Campuses.
There are 6 of them left open in the city, and that is just a stone disgrace. But anyway, let's get back to the topic on hand. I got a question. Has the Democratic Party been vocal enough about the redistricting issue? Either one of you respond.
I would say no. I would say absolutely not. There's been a palpable silence coming from the Democratic Party as a organization. We have had, as I described, Sherry and other elected officials step up and decide with Attorney Nayad, who is a wonderful partner in, establishing and fighting for civil rights. As a matter of fact, we served on the Civil Rights Commission together.
Excuse me, Bert. I think Sherry's having some technical trouble. She's making some clicks.
No, it's all right.
Try not to make those clicks, Sherry, if you can avoid them. But go ahead, Bert. I interrupted you because Sherry was making some clicks, and I think it might have been interfering with what you were saying.
They have decided to speak up and out against this in favor of Black and brown voters because the Democratic Party as a organization has been silent. The leader of the Michigan Democratic Party is an African-American female. And we have to know that this is an important issue, but yet there's been a silence. And, I can't speak for whether or not they've made any statements at all about it. All I can say is that I read probably 4 to 5 newspapers a day. I attempt to keep myself informed in other ways, and I'm not privy to specific actions that have been planned. I'm not clear that they have supported this lawsuit or joined it. I'm not really sure what the party is doing.
They do not support it.
I consider myself to be very well informed, and I don't know what they're doing. So if they are doing things, I hope they will speak up and out. One of the immediate things they could do was join this lawsuit and support the ideals being presented by it, because this map is violative of so many constitutional provisions. It is illegal to disenfranchise voters this way. It's antithetical to everything that folks who fought for civil and voting rights stood for. It's unacceptable.
Well, there was a professor. So there was a professor from Wayne State University. His name just slipped my mind. I am so sorry. And he made a Lego version of the redistricting map. And it's these kind of professors who also kind of help shape the narrative for the legal argument for this redistricting, right? His whole idea is that this is gerrymandering, that we're caging in Black voters and therefore diluting the power of the vote across the line, and that this is actually liberating the Black vote is what the narrative is, right? I mean, isn't that where the whole idea of gerrymandering comes in? That they're trying to stop gerrymandering? I mean, this was published in the Metro Times as the Democratic Party narrative for redistricting before we saw the maps actually drawn.
Well, I'm not exactly clear on the premise, but let me say this.
But there have been Republicans. Sorry.
Whatever argument there is that seeks to justify this redistricting map fails to take into consideration the purpose of the Voting Rights Act, the purpose of preserving the Black vote and the brown vote. This is exclusionary. It is not an inclusion-styled redistricting map. It is if you're a Democrat, because it gives Democrats the advantage. That's what both parties have done. Every time they get a chance to draw the map, one side favors the other. This was supposed to be an independent process. And in this independent process, all considerations were to be taken into account. And most especially, you should not be diluting Black representation in Congress.
Absolutely
there is no
not.
argument
Black
that is going to justify that.
And
I'm
Biden
quite
in office.
frankly,
I'm sorry, I've interrupted you. Go ahead.
No, that's okay. I'm just saying that that's one of the politics that is often played on Black and brown people. Well, this is actually being inclusionary. This is actually expanding. Didn't Dr. King want everybody to live together peacefully? No, that's not. That is a fairy tale, fabulistic version of history and facts. The reality is, we as Black people in this state should have representation that looks like us, that lives where we live, and that voices our concerns. This redistricting map dilutes that ability and reduces the number of individuals we will have representing us in Congress. Now, don't get me wrong. I know that Sherry knows how to campaign. She knows how to go door to door. She knows how to build alliances and coalitions, and I'm positive that she will do that.
Sherry? Yeah.
I think we lost Sherry again. I don't see her.
Are you here with us?
She's
Sherry,
back.
I'm wondering, how transparent did you think was the whole process for redistricting in Detroit in terms of public meetings? I understand that 2 out of 13 commissioners were actually 2 females from Detroit, a small nonprofit business owner named Kellum and another older woman named Curry. All due respect to them. There have been no responses issued from them. Everybody else in the commission has been interviewed but them. And you know just about everybody in the city. Do you know what's going on in their minds, perhaps, about redistricting? The only quote we got was that they think it's illegal.
Sherry? Okay, I think we've lost her.
Yeah.
Oh, there she is. Okay, go ahead. Go ahead, Sherry.
I apologize for the technical difficulty, so I had to come to.
That's all right.
But today is their last day to respond. Those that are responding and they think it's legal. We're going by the Court of Law Rights Act. Bertram is an attorney. It's crystal clear that they have violated the Voting Rights Act. They violated transparency. And leaving the people out of the process. And so today, we are awaiting their legal response to the claim that has been made. We know that based on the guidelines of the Voting Rights Act, that something has to happen. And so I'm hopeful that a Democratic court will look favorably upon the complaint that we have made, and we will see some changes. They have ignored the largest community of interest in this state in disenfranchising our vote. And before I got kind of shut out of the program a moment ago, you talked about people who are coming from the perspective of being more inclusive, and sprinkling a little black here and a little black here and a little black
Yeah,
here.
yeah.
That,
They-
that's
Orange.
that
yeah.
argument won't hold,
No,
because what you do is actually diminish the voting block and the power and
Mhm.
the impact on the city of Detroit alone. Just think
that's right.
about DPS. If you have everyone outside of Detroit, you have no Senate representation in the city of Detroit. How would you get the support to have fair funding for DPS when many of the people
That's
out
right.
our city don't understand the challenges and feel like we're not deserving of a fair and quality education with adequate funding. Imagine if we had been going through the city of Detroit bankruptcy and we had no Senate representation. We had no House member representation. We have 15 members currently, 5 in the Senate, 10 in the House, representing the interests of the city of Detroit. Taking that away, retrogression is what it is, removing seats beyond, way beyond what's allowable as it relates to the Voting Rights Act is wrong. And so when you look at the content and letter of the law, I
Hmm.
believe we will have a measure of justice.
Well, that leads to this question. What is more important for Detroiters? The passage of a Voting Rights Act, or mobilizing more voters to participate in the election process? Because the last time, I mean, we're less than 20% of us are voting. What are we going to do about that?
So the people need, let me tell you something. I said when you came on that I'm thinking about running for Congress. No, I'm in with both feet, 2 hands,
Right. Yeah.
eyes, and everything else. I think the people need a
Yeah.
candidate.
Fernanda said that. I didn't say that. I know you're running for Congress, and we're supporting you. I'm supporting you,
Salute.
and we're going to get you in there.
With certainty, the 13th district, I'm all the way in. I'm not
Hmm.
out. I'm
Right. Right. No, I know that. I know that, Terry.
but I have to say this: the people are looking for to be inspired. They have lost their
Yes.
confidence in many of our leaders. They have lost their confidence in people who say one thing and when they get elected, they do another. They've
That's
lost
right.
their confidence in people that says they're fighting for them, but they never hear them lift their voice about
Mhm.
the issues that plague us. Like auto insurance, like health care, like mental health coverage,
That's
like
right.
affordable housing, like environmental injustice. So you got to have people that inspire the people, and they know that you got a proven track record of fighting for them. I believe it's going to be a better election because you have a better candidate on the ticket right here that's going to get a movement, not just a campaign, but a movement where people know that they are a part of this process, and the reception that I'm getting from the community is
Hmm.
huge. We had a meeting on Zoom for our first campaign meeting with almost close to 96, 97. The numbers were fluctuating, but I couldn't even hardly keep up on the Zoom because our campaign meeting was almost 100 people.
Wow.
I didn't expect that kind of turnout,
People
but
are
people
engaged.
are charged up and amped up and ready to help someone that they know has their best interest, not talking about what they're going to do, but what they have been doing for years on behalf of the people. And so I
Hmm.
believe the people are going to come out to vote when there's somebody on there that the establishment didn't pick, but the people picked. And that's what this is about.
Well, now you're talking, Sherry. Now you're talking. We got to go to our last commercial, and then we're going to talk more about this.
And you're watching the John Telford Detroit Show, coming to you live on Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, Twitter, and other top social media platforms. Please like, follow, share, comment, and subscribe to us and other various programming here offered at WJZZ, the coolest station in the world.
And I gotta tell you before I forget. I'm my poetry. I'm the poet in residence of the Detroit Public Schools now, and my poetry right now is on the stands in the Downtown Monitor. So get a Downtown Monitor. It's still there. And I got to say one more thing. Well, no, I'm not going to say one more thing. I'll do that other ad toward the end. Okay, I have one last question. Unless you have one. Yeah, unless you have one. Do you have one, Sananda?
Oh, no, go ahead.
Okay,
We don't have time for more than one more.
Well, let me ask
It's
this.
a juicy one.
This is to either one of you guys. What do you think every citizen should be doing to impact the redistricting and the Voting Rights Act issues? What do you say that every citizen should be doing?
And I'm
to
especially
make
touched by this cultural revolution and the movement that you're talking about.
Yes. Well, for me, as one of the plaintiffs, we still have an opportunity for people to sign on if they would like to this complaint. But I think also people should write the Supremes, email the Supremes here in Michigan, and let them know that they do not want to be disenfranchised by these maps. We want alignment with the Voting Rights Act, and we're asking them to adjudicate these cases in alignment with what is right, what is fair, what is prudent, and what is just.
Now, what about that historical pressure? Oh, there's an election coming up. We don't have time for this shit. Just go along with it one more time, please. We'll invite you to the dance the next time. What do you say
Yeah,
to
I'd say also reach out to their congressional chairs. Reach out to our Democratic Party chair. Let
that?
their voices be heard, but make sure that they understand what's at stake, understand the issues. I'm thankful to the Inkster City Council members who signed on a resolution unanimously supporting this. Legina Williams passed that resolution. All the members there that signed onto that resolution, to Virginia Williams, who offered and put forward a resolution for this lawsuit, in the Romulus City Council, and all of those members there that signed on and unanimously to support this. This is not just a cry from just African Americans saying we deserve justice. I have received support from folks that don't look like us, that know that this is unjust. And so
Which of our Detroit City Council members are speaking out in support of this lawsuit?
I haven't seen any speak out, but I will say that Councilwoman Angela Callaway did ask me for copies of the resolution so that she could offer them. And I sent her, actually, I sent her a copy last night. So I'm hopeful that all of them, I did speak to, prior to our the press conference, I did speak to President Mary Sheffield through text message, and she said she does stand in support. They
Yeah,
haven't come out with a
Mary
resolution.
supports it. I believe Letitia Johnson
Yes,
supports
yes,
it.
Letitia Johnson. They
Mary
haven't
Uh,
signed. They
Waters
haven't
and
signed on, but I know that all of them support in its context the Voting Rights Act, and I believe Councilman Tate. Please tune in to Councilman Tate's Saturday meeting, January 22nd, 10 a.m. He will be hosting a full discussion with counsel and co-counsel Ayad and Yancey and his team on this Saturday at 10 a.m.
okay, that sounds good.
thank you. And how do we sign on our support for the lawsuit? Do we go to a website?
It is not listed. Oh, and I have to say, board member Georgia Lemons has signed on as well. There's so many people that have signed on. Commissioner Martha G. Scott,
Yeah,
Commissioner Irma Clark,
Wayne County
Coleman.
Commissioner. Yeah.
I'm so sorry. Commission Chairwoman Alicia Bell
Yeah,
from the Wayne County
that's
Commission.
awesome.
I can list all of those, and if I could get you all the proper link to list on your show, so that you can direct folks for where to send, where to sign on to the lawsuit. I don't want to put out just a campaign email, but I'll give another email where people can actually sign on to the lawsuit. So I'll get
Yeah,
that.
no, I understand. If you would do that, I'll also get it onto WCHB,
Yes,
which is where
absolutely.
I've got a lot of listeners now. But now that I've been doing a monologue, my ratings have gone way up. But Bert, do you want to respond to that too? That
I think that Sherry's covered it right well, and I would say, most of the time people don't get involved because they are feeling inadequately informed. They think this is sort of above my head, or they say, well, I don't have the money, I don't have the expertise or the time. A phone call, a donation, an email. All of those things are important ways to engage, and anybody can do it.
Yes.
It doesn't take a special skill set. It doesn't take any a great amount of wealth. You can get involved if you know absolutely nothing about Congress, nothing about politics, but you've heard something from Sherry or me or anybody who's speaking. Get involved. Just call and say, hey, I don't know what to do. I just want to help. They will guide you to the right volunteerism. Anybody can get involved. Everybody should be involved. And I think what we're on the ground floor of is a voter registration and education initiative similar to what we saw in Georgia. That is what's needed in Detroit. And again, Carrie probably doesn't like that I keep making this reference to her as standing up as the leader. Yes, there were other people with her. And I applaud all who joined this effort, but she's been very vocal about this and other issues of civil rights. So if you're contemplating, who she is or what she represents, all you got to do is just do a Google search on the issues that she's constantly and very vocally standing up for. And she lets us know what she's for, and she lets us know what she's against, and she doesn't come back empty-handed. So that's what we need. We need more politicians with integrity. And on integrity, we're talking about being true to the interests of Black and brown voters, being true to those interests and fighting for them, not making concessions, not telling us to wait, but being active and vocal about them. And so all I can say is get involved.
Okay, Sherry, you got any closing remarks?
I just want to thank Attorney Bertram Marks for those remarks. I came up in community activism with my late godmother, Annette Rainwater, working for Alberta Tinsley Talabi, working for the late Honorable Clyde Cleveland, and even working along with our
high school with him, by the way.
John Conyers. And so we have to continue to lift our voice to understand the difference between people who just want to get elected and those who are in the trenches fighting. It's going to take all of us. No little I's, no big U's. It's going to take all of us, the grassroots community, the elected community, the labor community, and our Democrats.
Thank you, Sherry. Thank you, Bert. This has been a good program. We just ran out of time, but you guys were wonderful. This was a good show.
Thank you so much.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you so much, Mr. Marks. Thank you so much, Ms. Gay Dagno. And you've been listening to the John Telford Detroit Show with Dr. John Telford and co-host Dr. Sunanda Samathur-Corrado on WJZC Cool TV on Wednesdays from 10 to 11 in the morning, streaming on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter. It was the late, great Dr. Wayne Dyer who said, Dr. John Telford has a warrior's heart and a poet's soul. Please listen also to Dr. Telford Show on WCHB AM 1340, Saturday mornings on 9:30 and Monday evenings at 6:30. And please tune in again next Wednesday morning at 10 o'clock. And thank you for listening.